Hello, I'm Casey Kasem, and you're listening to John Santo's The Radio on Strong Island Radio. Here's the host of the radio, John Santo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to I think this is our fourth quarantine episode, maybe our fifth. Was hoping we wouldn't be quarantined this long, but we are, and want to welcome everybody to the radio on April the 27th, 2020, and I have a terrific co-host I'm going to introduce right now, and I'm going to introduce him, and then I'm going to tell you why he's the best co-host for this particular show. Because, well, first let's introduce him. Please welcome my special guest co-host,
David Weiss.
David Weiss. Now, the reason why David is a fantastic guest for the show is because the radio is fake news on purpose. And it is a satirical version of AM radio. Now, why is David the best host for that? David, please tell them who you are.
Well, it's a long list on my resume because I can't seem to hold one job down for too long. But for the last 15 years now, I have been a news anchor at 1010 Wins, the number one all-news station, not just in New York, but across the country.
Because you get everything done in 22 minutes.
Everything. Absolutely everything.
Everything in 22 minutes. You get the whole world with 22 minutes.
You give us 22 minutes, and you know the rest of that. That's part of my stand-up comedy act. It's one of many things that I do, but it has been among the most enjoyable things as well. And during this difficult time, so many of us at 1010 Wins are working from home. That doesn't include me. I don't have the proper setup, and I have too many things going on here at home. But all my colleagues at Wins are now working from home studios and not in the actual studio in Manhattan.
Can't you just get a blue mic and hook it up to your computer? Would that be enough? Or
yeah,
it has to be bigger.
I actually need a Comrec system and some additional computer screens. It would take a little bit of work. I could do it, but with the situation in my house and with full-time personnel now on the air, so I'm not one of those who's broadcasting from home, although I could.
That's pretty cool, though. I mean, I didn't know that they were broadcasting from home.
Yeah.
You know what's cool? No matter how many times I hear you on 1010 Wins when I'm in the car and I'm listening, I'm always like, shh, it's David. Like, I always turn it up. Because sometimes I don't know what you at first, because you sound a little different, I guess. In one of my cars, you sound different than the other car, if that makes any sense. And because I have a newer car that has technology in it. Like my other two cars are old. I don't even have a backup camera in one of them. And the other one, I have a little backup camera, but I'm still basically on AM radio. But my Buick has high def AM radio.
Wow. So
you sound different in that car on HD AM than you do in the other two cars.
Yeah, so I've heard that, in terms of the processing and how it comes through the speakers. You talk about old cars. I mean, it was just a couple of years ago, I finally sold my 1993 Camry that still had a cassette. It had cassette in the dash. I loved it.
My 99 Altima had cassette and CD.
Oh, that's great.
It was standard on that model.
Right.
And then I finally got rid of that car a couple of years ago. So now I have an 06 Honda. I have a minivan Honda, but that one has so I have no backup camera. I have a little 2-inch one in the rearview mirror. And then I have this big widescreen, a cinematic, looks like a movie, backup camera in the other car, which is new.
Yeah, I don't have any of that. No, I just run people over. I don't have a backup camera, so it doesn't matter.
But it's almost better to either have all the cars old or all the cars new. Because it's like when I was a pilot, it was like switching from different airplanes. Like everything is different. It's like now I'm relying on. I actually have to turn around to back up the older car.
Right. Well,
I don't turn around with the back, even though you're supposed to. I don't really. I mean, the cameras, if they're not out of the way, if they're in the camera range, it's their problem.
You remember The Godfather? Watch the kids backing out. I want to make New York sometime this month. So everything to me is a movie line anyway. So there you go.
Me too. I love movie lines.
Yeah. Well, listen, you and I really enjoy the same movies, whether it's Hunt for Red October or Top Gun or where, and we know every line. And you and I do something that my close friends and I always do. You take lines from those movies and you insert them into what you're doing now.
Yep.
It's what's happening now. So, which is
every time I post, I'm watching a particular movie. You're usually one of the, if not the first, the second or whatever comment So the other day I was watching Clear and Present Danger for like the 400th time.
Me too. Right.
And my wife, I'm watching it. My wife comes downstairs and she's like, "You're watching this again?" I go, "How dare you come into this office and bark at me like I'm some junkyard dog? I impersonate the president of the United States.
How dare you, sir?" Yeah. We know all the same line. We could do movie lines for an hour. Easily.
For an hour. The whole show could be movie lines. And people like that. I think people like movie lines.
Yeah. Well, especially depending on what the movie is. Listen, Glenn Ross was just on. All right, was on cable. Mm-hmm. It's a terrific movie, start to finish. Not exactly a feel-good movie, but it's a terrific movie, well written. I love that. Almost got a complete spit take out of you. So Alec Baldwin is on camera for 8 minutes. It's one of the best 8-minute performances of all time. He should have won an Academy Award for that. So I recorded just that 8 minutes, and I just watch it over and over again.
So then you're the perfect person to ask, because I had this idea. You ready for this?
Sure.
You know how Alec Baldwin always imitates Trump on SNL?
Yes.
So I was thinking I was going to do a Trump video where I'm Trump, and I say, "Alec Baldwin is trying to do my job. I'm going to do his. Put that coffee down. That coffee is for closers. What's my name? You drove a Hyundai here. I drove an $85,000 BMW. That's my name. That's my name." So doing right? Like, I think the Captain Mancuso has found the Red October. I could do a couple of lines from all his movies,
Absolutely great. That would be terrific.
What do you think of that idea? Good?
Perfect. Anything you do with Trump is great, but that's good. You do movie lines in his...
Yeah, I think the Baldwin one fits because he's trying to do his job on SNL. Right. So I'll do it that way.
Perfect.
But the what was the one we were just talking about recently? Well, Red October is fun. I mean, that's like a phenomenal. That's just like phenomenal. I do 3 guys from that movie. I do Sean Connery. I do Fred Thompson, and I do James Earl. So that's like. Here's what bothers me about the Hunt for October. You'll know the scene immediately when he goes, "You understand, Commander, that torpedo did not self-destruct. You heard it hit the hull, and I was never here." And he shows him his ID.
Right.
He didn't check his ID before that whole thing?
Yeah, wouldn't you need to check an ID before you were aborting a torpedo? Yes. Hey, listen, you know what else came to mind? You know the movie The Fugitive?
Yeah, with Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, of course. Now, Jerome Crabbe plays Dr. Charles Nichols. And that always makes me laugh, though, because one of my favorite comedies, and I'm a big Walter Matthau fan, is the movie House Calls, where he does it with Ann Jackson, and they're a great duo. Anyway, his name, and he's a surgeon at a hospital. Walter Matthau plays Dr. Charlie Nichols, so it's the same name of another doctor. Anyway,
that's funny.
Yeah, only I would think of this. But in The Fugitive, it's a gigantic plot hole. Jerome Crabbe is actually involved, in his wife's murder.
Right.
But he's helping Harrison Ford as Richard Kimball. Why wouldn't he just turn him in immediately?
I don't get that either. Right.
No, go to Tommy Lee Jones, who is, Lieutenant, Gerard, and tell him, listen, I know where he is. That's it. And the movie's over. You'd have a 10-minute movie. Be done.
Do you know what? I still remember where I saw The Fugitive for whatever reason. Do you remember when you went to the end of the Seaford Oyster Bay on Jericho Turnpike, just east of the Seaford Oyster Bay? There was a movie theater there with 2 levels. It's a medical building now, but it had like a balcony. So we got the first seat in the upper level.
Right.
It was nice. It was like you had a great view of the screen.
Wow.
And I saw The Fugitive there in 92, I think it came out.
Wow.
But that Tommy Lee Jones thing where he goes, "I want a hard search of every farmhouse, hen house, and outhouse."
You do him too. Listen, I can sit here. You could just do one voice after another.
I don't even do him really, but that scene is great.
See, I know that I am by my count, your 22nd co-host on the radio. So I'm going to treat the 21 previous hosts as warm-up acts. I'm the headliner. So as we continue,
is this the 22nd episode?
That's right. It says episode 22 or 23, something like that. That's
oh my God, I should know, right? It's only my show.
Well, because I heard last week's show. I heard last week's show with John LaRocca, and he was terrific. So were you, as always.
Yeah, this says episode 22 right on my Facebook.
It's 22. So
wow, I'm uninformed.
That's all right. I don't mind being number 22 tonight. That's fine. But obviously, the requirements are we have to know you and love you. Everybody loves John, and big fan with good friends. and you have to have a co-host who can talk about himself for an hour, which I can easily do too. So that's why I was all set and so excited when you asked me to do this. And
we wanted to have you on a long time ago, because really the show is kind of like, you're almost like an inspiration for the show, because you're on the real radio and we're the fake radio. So it makes perfect sense. Like, I do fake news stories. I even have Tom Brokaw on here doing news. I've got a guy in BBC. We have a BBC affiliate, BBC Radio. He comes on, Brent Nigel. So we have all these people, and now we have a real. I don't have to do the voice. I have a real person.
Well,
this is fantastic.
As you know, there are news people who have always used humor within their news. I mean, I have met and spoken to, and you've seen him, Brian Williams, MSNBC Now, former NBC nightly news anchor, whatever, and he's hysterical. He does impressions. He could do a great Regis Philbin that'll you'll fall off your chair, and he's just a very funny guy. There are a lot of people who have either a dry or overt senses of humor, but I've always used humor in everything I've ever done. And that includes play-by-play for the Long Island Ducks, or, even writing or news anchoring, sports. Doesn't make a difference. And that led me to stand-up comedy, in a sense, which I began just 3 years ago. And I've never had more fun than when I'm on stage. And I'm not just saying this because I'm looking at you through the screen and talking to you tonight, but the best shows I've done are shows where you have been on the bill. I mean,
Get out!
No, that's absolutely true. And if I could just tell the quick story of the Islip Firehouse, it was about a year ago, Islip Firehouse show.
Yeah, it was last April, yeah.
Yep, you, me, Rich Walker, I think Paul Bond, I'm not sure. I think Paul.
It was Paul Bond, yeah.
So it was the four of us. I went first. We all did well. The crowd was fantastic, about 200, 250 people there. It went so well. Show is over, and we thank everybody, giving the hugs, see you later, whatever. And I climb into your SUV, and we were talking for 45 minutes. We just couldn't leave. All we did was talk movies. We're talking about the show. We're talking about everything. And then I looked down at my phone, which I had put on silent, and it's Rich Walker texting me saying, "You've got to come back here. You've got to get back here. You won the 50-50. And I said, no. I said, come on. That's bull. You just, you're yanking my chain. No. So finally, I get out and I walk back in. I hit the 50-50. I bought one ticket, hit the 50-50.
One ticket?
I bought one 50-50 ticket, gave it to one of the firefighters to hold for me. And he was honest enough, turned it over, saw my name. I won $1,100. So
now we know why it's the best show. Now
there you go. That's the best all-time show. And I worked that now into some of my my sets in comedy routines. I talk about this, winning $1,100 at a 50-50 Firehouse show. But I did the right thing. I went back to those firefighters and I said, listen, I mean, $1,100, I can't accept this. I mean, you guys are putting your lives on the line every single day. So I'm going to give you back the $10 that I spent for the winning ticket. So that's the most I've ever made at a comedy show. $1,100. Well, actually, $1,090 because the firefighters took the 10. They're not stupid.
You were the highest paid comic in April that year on Long Island.
$1,100. And when I got home, I did the right thing as well. I told my wife, I said, listen, honey, you're not going to believe this. I hit the 50-50. I bought a ticket. I wanted to be a good sport or whatever. And she goes, you did? I go, yeah, $300.
That night was actually funny because Steve was going to book me for another show.
Yep.
And I said, Steve, after Thursday, if I don't get back to you right away, I'm not being rude. I'm going to be out at sea. I'm going on a cruise. So until I get to like Florida or on Easter Sunday, I could, then I'll check my phone. And then I'm like out of pocket until I hit the Bahamas, because on the ship, it's a lot of money.
Right.
To use the whatever. So, when I get to each island and I'm on Wi-Fi, then I'll check in. He goes, okay. So I go on the cruise Thursday. And now Rich Walker's also on the show that night. Steve and him work together. So I'm on the cruise. I turn around. You know the story. He's right there.
Unbelievable.
I'm like, great. So I think he's the comedian for the cruise.
Right.
But it was another very funny guy, Carl Guerrero. Very classy guy. And I'm like, I just told Steve that I was going on a cruise. He didn't mention you were going on a cruise. He goes, I don't know if I told him. Like, so Rich, he goes, he couldn't remember if you told him or not. So it was hilarious. And then Carl did the nicest thing. Rich and I were helping him with material. At one point, he asked us for our opinion. So, of course, we just, we don't think anything of it. We tell him something. Rich worked with him a lot more. He ran into him. And he actually thanked us on the adult show the last night when the real big show,
right?
Where you could do like all your material, not the one my kids went to, but the adult one. We were in the first row. He actually called us out from the stage, which was nice. I thought that was very classy. Yeah, and like all I did was the same thing I would do with you or anybody else. If we were talking about material development, we play off same typical stuff.
No, this is I've been in radio, in the broadcast field, radio and TV. I've done both for 41 years now, dating back to 1979.
Well, you start when you were 2?
Hey, listen, I'm 60 plus here, pal. So
get out of here.
Oh yeah. So, but in jumping into, and I did some comedy in Rhode Island. I actually did a comedy show when I really didn't know what I was doing. Do you remember Laura Branigan, singer? She sang Gloria.
Yeah,
right. So she did a show at the Warwick Musical Theater. That was their version of the Westbury Music Fair in theater in the round. And I did about 15 to 20 minutes of material and opened for her. But I got a little taste of it in Rhode Island, but got serious about 3 years ago here. And I've never met a bunch of more generous, likable, wonderful people than in this fraternity in our area. Almost without exception. Everybody's just fantastic. Really helpful, fun to be with. It's a big new friends, including you, obviously. And
you mean Long Island the comedy scene on Long Island?
Yeah, absolutely. Just I couldn't be more thrilled to be friends with people who I've admired for a long time. Rich Walker and I met back in the 90s. Didn't even know who he was. We were doing some luncheon show for the Hop Hog Industrial Association. I was emceeing, and he did a set there, whatever. And we met back then, and when I was just the co-host of the Walk Breakfast Club, WALK.
Those are tough shows. Those corporate comedy shows can be tough. They can be brutal crowds.
That's true. But,
and you know what's sad is that what I've noticed. So the most money I've ever made on comedy shows were those, like these corporate type ones, these business dinner things, and most of the people, they don't even know there's a comedian. They pay, very well compared to the other shows I do. But I get sometimes the lowest paid shows I destroy. I get the most laughs.
Right.
These stodgy corporate shows, you're like an annoyance to them. I don't know why they book comedians on these shows and they pay you a fortune.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it should be the reverse. I want to get the most laughs on the show. I make the most money.
You've been at this longer than me, and obviously there are many veteran comedians across Long Island. But all of us have these stories to share. It's like a Woody Allen movie, and it's like a Broadway Danny Rose. You're sitting there telling these war stories about being on stage. But some of the best shows are the smallest ones. I did Lala's indoor antique flea market in Farmingville, a crowd of 7, 4 of whom were my family members, 7 people sitting there. This is a indoor flea market. Keith Fitz. I mean, he's that's his place over there. So
I've done that show.
So 7 people, an indoor flea. There's a 2 bird cage minimum on the way in. It's a flea market, for God's sake. So I do the show, get great laughs, have a great time. Stevie GB was the headliner. We took an intermission and did a second half, and it was a great time. Some of those shows are the best when they're small and you don't expect much, and it's fun. You have the best time. It really is.
A packed firehouse show.
Oh yeah,
those are like you almost can't do a bad job on those shows. Those shows are going to rock.
Yeah,
those are my favorite shows.
Yeah, they come there to laugh. They come in there to have a good time, and they are so receptive. They're very
firehouses so I noticed 2 things: the firehouses are great, and the theaters where the people aren't facing each other because they're always focused on the stage.
Right.
There's very little to distract them compared to when sometimes you're at a show and it's like they're talking to each other. They're like I did a PTA show one time. Ugh.
Oh really?
Oh my God, it was horrible. They wouldn't stop talking. I'm like, why am I even here?
Right.
So I was just gonna read from a book just to fill my 20 minutes because I'm not. Why am I destroying my voice doing these voices for them?
Right. And now here's the question: how long will it take for us to get back to doing live shows with people sitting very close to each other? Think of the Lil Room, which I performed in so many times. And it's a small room. You're on top of each other, but it's a great venue for a show. The big room is fine, but that little room where you're getting immediate feedback, they're right on top of you. But how long will it take to get back to that? And many of us are thinking about the last show we did. The last show I did was February 29th. It was on Leap Day, and that night at the Jericho Jewish Center with Rich Walker and Peter Bales. It was and Eric Haft.
Oh my God, what a lineup!
What a lineup! I led off. Had a great time. I did about 20 minutes. I happen to be Jewish. I've done shows at my own temple here in Oakdale. So I'd used a lot of that same material and, dealing with the crowd. It was like shooting gefilte fish in a barrel, John. It was, I just love doing temple shows. And that was the last show I did. That's the memory I've got of the wonderful show we had that night. And hopefully we'll have a chance to do it again.
My last show was in Florida. I was with Laughter Saves Lives. We were down at Met Spring Training. And thankfully we went that week because they canceled spring training, I think 2 weeks later.
Right.
So we at least got to see, the Met game. We went to a game one night. We had 3 shows. So my last show was in Melbourne, Florida.
Wow.
I have not performed since February.
I would love to do Florida. I mean, Steve Lazarus lives down there part of the time.
Yeah.
And all the guys we know go down there at some point. Well, I would love to do it. My father-in-law lives in Clearwater. And, he's in his 80s. He's undergone so many physical things, but is in good shape and surviving. But it's whether you're in Florida or here, you're just trying to make do and get through it. So
yeah, I can't wait till we get back on stage and we can actually do a show. I mean, I forgot my whole act. I got to write it down. I don't remember.
You were saying that when you listen to me coming through your car radio and the speakers, you go, "Oh, is that David? That's David. That's him." I do the same thing when I'm watching President Trump. I'm saying to myself, "Is that John? Or is that Trump? I don't know. At this point, if I'm not in the room and I don't see, President Trump, I think it might be you."
True story. I did a commercials for Connoisseur Media, which is, I guess, the Shark. All those you would know better than me. The radio stations walk. Yep. So one of my friends who's been, I used to ride the train with him, and I've been doing impressions of him for a long time. He used to actually do stand up as well. And he goes, "I'm driving home one day, and I hear you." And he goes, "How did John get on my iPhone?" He thought he was listening. He didn't realize it was one of my commercials. Right. I think I was Schwarzenegger. It was a commercial. I did a few of them. I did one as Tony Soprano for Atlantic Hyundai. I did a solar panel company as I think Obama, Trump, Bush. I did a few of them. They're a lot of fun to do. I do them right here in my house. I got the blue mic. I put it on an MP3. Now I could do it right through the phone.
Right.
I hook up the blue mic to the phone. Let me see if I have my. It doesn't matter. They can't. I forgot. We're not on visual, but I got the camera adapter for the iPhone, so I can USB my blue mic right into this adapter. Put that in the firewall. The thing on the phone, the voiceover thing I have is better than the software on my computer.
How about that?
Because I couldn't figure out. All I want to do is I want to put a picture of whoever I'm imitating.
Right.
And then you hit play. So when I send it to somebody, if I'm Tony Soprano, there's a picture of Tony Soprano. "What the fuck is the matter with you?" And then they play it and they see the person and they hear it. It's better. I can't figure out how to do that on Roxy on my computer. But on the phone, it takes 2 seconds.
Yeah, you see that I'm well versed with my audio equipment here, but you're way ahead of me when it comes to dealing with the phone and everything. I don't even have an iPhone. I've got the Samsung Galaxy thing, Android. So, but I've got a mixer and I've got a mini disc player and I've got, a quality microphone here. Mm-hmm. So, I have done newscasts from here. I've done, I did syndicated newscasts, a 5-minute morning newscast for 10 years that was heard on 300 stations across the country.
Oh, cool.
And did it just from my house. So that's one of the things I've done. I've done a little bit of everything just to keep going.
So you're the sportscaster for the Long Island Ducks.
Yes. I've been with the Ducks 20 years. April 28th, 2000 was when the Ducks debuted.
I was just going to say you've been there the whole time then.
Yeah. From day one, before day one, I was involved when I was co-hosting the Walk Breakfast Club morning show on Walk Radio. We spearheaded the effort to gain momentum to bring minor league baseball to Long Island. I spoke in front of the Suffolk legislature, and we were involved in that whole effort. And when the Ducks were created, I had become very friendly with. He's a good friend, Frank Bolton, who was the founder of the Ducks, and been with them ever since. I've been in the broadcast booth for every one of their seasons. This is the 21st season when it starts, and I would literally pay them to do play-by-play for the games. That's how much I enjoy it. Play-by-play is the first thing I ever wanted to do when I decided I want to go into radio.
Right.
I had a tape recorder. I got a tape recorder from my parents as a gift. I wanted it in 6th grade. I was interviewing classmates. I had my own fake radio station, whatever. But then in, I think it was 8th or 9th grade, I took my tape recorder into the stands of Elmont Memorial High School basketball games and did play-by-play. And it served 2 purposes. I fulfilled a dream of doing play-by-play. And it also stopped the basketball players from beating me up because I became very popular with the jocks because they could hear themselves on tape. Right. I still have those cassette tapes. I still do.
I had to look it up because I couldn't remember his name. But do you know Daniel Fields on the team? He's the outfielder. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when we were at spring training, we're talking to Bruce Fields, who's his father. He's the hitting coach for the the St. Lucie Mets, the minor league team.
Right.
So there were a bunch of guys in the batting cage, and then Bruce Fields was just sitting there. We're just chatting away with him. He's like, "You guys are from Long Island?" We go, "Yeah." He goes, "How far are you from the Long Island Ducks?" I said, "It's like 40 minutes, 40 minutes away. I go there all the time." So he goes, "Oh, my son is the outfielder for the Daniel." I had to look up his name.
Yeah, terrific.
I remember Field. Yeah.
Nice
and
guy.
The father was
terrific player.
The father was so great. He was talking to us for like 20 minutes.
Wow. How about that?
And idiot that I am, I thought I had him already sign the ball. I didn't ask him to sign the ball. I'm like, I walk away, and he goes in the clubhouse. I'm like, I forgot to ask him. I thought we got at the beginning.
Yeah, right.
I was like pissed. I forgot to get him to sign the ball.
Right.
But he's the hitting coach for their single A advanced down in St. Lucie. So when the major league team leaves, on the normal conditions to go north, then the St. Lucie Mets pretty much start around the same time.
Right. Yeah, I know
he's their hitting coach.
I know that field well because in 1990, WALK Radio sent me down to Port St. Lucie, where I participated in Mets Fantasy Camp, which was known and may still be known as Ulta Met Camp. So there's the play on words, MET, Ulta Met Fantasy Camp. One of the co-owners was a former broadcaster for the Mets, Steve Zabriskie, and I think Buddy Harrelson may have been a co-owner as well, but they were all down there. And that was the winter of the spring training lockout. Owners and players couldn't get together on a new deal. So they were locked out. We were the only game in town. We had fans all over the place flocking to see our intramural games. And at the end of the week of fantasy camp, all of the teams, all 8 teams that we had, would play members of the 69 Mets, which is what we did. We played, let's see, who was there? Gary Gentry was there. Al Weiss, 1S, as compared to my 2 S's. And he was one of my favorite Mets from 69 because of the name. And, of course, Buddy was there. I think AG was there. So many 69 Mets were there. And I got a hit in that game. I blooped a single over Jerry Grody's head. Grody was playing
nice.
The great all-time Mets catcher. He was playing third, and I blooped it over his head. And the guy behind me hit a triple. I came around to score. These are things you're never going to forget.
And they gave you a baseball card. I remember you had a mustache. I think I saw a picture of you there. Yeah,
well, I got it there. Of course, I know that this is radio, but I'll hold it up so you can see it.
There it is. Yep.
That's it.
I thought it was Keith Hernandez. I'm like, wow, that
looks like
it's worth a fortune. That card.
So listen, if you don't mind, if it's okay with you, I think we can do this because we're doing this audio, but via Zoom. I think I can play for you my favorite home run call for the Long Island Ducks that I did back in 2016.
And then I want to ask you a question after you play that.
Okay. Now, the short story that goes along with this is that the Ducks have had a long-time shortstop named Dan Lyons. In the Buddy Harrelson mold, not known for his hitting, known for his great glove, leadership on and off the field, and not a lot of power. But Chris King, who is the longtime voice of the New York Islanders, also has been involved with the Ducks from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So Chris and I had a deal. If we were doing the game and Chris was doing the play-by-play and I was doing the color in that particular inning where Dan Lyons hits a home run, Chris would back off after the ball went off the wall and I would pick it up with a home run call. I'd never done a home run call the same way twice. I sometimes work in songs, locales like the Long Island Railroad and MacArthur Airport and stuff like that. In this particular case, I decided to sing. His name is Dan Lyons. All right. Mm-hmm. And let's see if I can cue this.
This is his first home rome?
No, not his first home run, but the first one I had an opportunity to call.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
All right. So you ready? Can you hear this? Yep. Lyons and home. You can hear that?
Yep.
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning here. So
might be a little loud. I don't know if it's too loud.
Is it too loud? All right. Well, I'm going to play it.
All right.
See what it sounds. Anyway, Chris King says, all right, that was deep to left. And he goes, gone. And he stops talking. I lean in. And this is what I did for Dan Lyons' home run.
Lions and homers and ribbies, oh my. Lions and homers and ribbies, oh my. We're off to run the bases. Dan Lyons just hit a home run. He hit the ball right over the wall. Dan Lyons just hit a home run. If ever there was a Long Island Duck who brought us some luck, it's Danny the Duck. Because Danny is a wonderful duck. We're off to run the bases. Dan Lyons just hit a home run. Danny clicks and spikes 3 times and says, there's no place like home plate. There's no place like home plate. Toto,
oh my God.
Anymore. Dan Lyons, home run.
There you go. That's it.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
That's my longest home run call. Went on for almost 50 seconds. As I tell a lot of the Long Island Ducks and people who listen to this thing, the home run call went on so long, 2 batters came up and made out before I was finished with the home run call.
I was just going to ask, did they stop the whole game?
It was ridiculous. Went on. So, yeah, I recorded that, gave it to Dan Lyons. I met his dad, and he was thrilled with it. So, yeah, it's one of my favorite home run calls where I went really way over the top with the name and the call. But I have a great time. It was good.
That was awesome with the home plate at the end. That was really funny.
Thank you.
So I did a call. I always do these on videos I make at Met games. So if I think there's a big opportunity play or something, I'll start recording.
Right.
So I was at the game where Pete Alonso hit his 53rd home run.
All right. Okay.
To break the rookie home run record. It was Saturday, the second to last game of the season. So I always do I always have done Al Pacino doing a home run call.
Oh,
and I usually do it. Now you'll know from the movie Heat, because I'll go, that ball is gone. Bye-bye. It's just like that part where he goes, we got 6 hours, 8 tops. The Neil is gone. Bye-bye. It's like, so.
I would kill to be able to do the impressions you do and do home run calls for the Ducks.
That's what I was going to ask you. So I had a dream one night that I did him for the Mets. I was in the booth with Gary, Keith, and Ron.
Right.
And I was doing a different one. So I was doing one of the Mets hit a home run. And I said, the Mets hit that ball over the wall and the other team paid for it. They paid for it. It was a grand slam. So they paid for it. 4 runs. A lot of runs. And then I would do like Pacino, bye-bye, bam.
That would outdo me anytime. I'm telling you, that would be fantastic. Well, we'll invite you into the booth. You could do an inning or 2 with us in the booth.
Oh, I'd love that. Are you kidding?
Yeah, we'd love to have you in. That would be.
Oh my God, I would love to do that. I'll only do a couple of things.
Yeah, we'll slip in some of those terrific impressions. That would be great. It's funny. It's the home run calls that I haven't done that I regret. The Ducks have had some players where I do about 15 or 20 games a year. And of course, we split up the play-by-play and color commentary duties during the game. So I have to hit it right, literally, to call a home run for a player who has a name, and I'm prepared. I write some of these things ahead of time. The Ducks had a player, no longer with them, but for a few seasons, named Angelo Santo, Csongco, Santo. That was his name. So I couldn't wait for him to hit a home run because I had something prepared. I had Sing a Santo, hit a homer that travels all night long, co. Don't tell us that it wasn't far enough. That ball is over the wall. So sing a Santo. I was all prepared for that. Never hit a homer.
Oh, that's funny. Doesn't that suck when the game doesn't work into your plans that you have for the narration?
Can't they cooperate? I did all this work, did all this prep. Come on.
See, you know what my problem is, though, is that I'm also in analytics. I don't do sports analytics, but I do analytical consulting. And I break up data in a bunch of different ways. So if I was doing a game, I'd be like, well, this is Jacob deGrom's first pitch to the inside of the plate with his new cleats and wearing a blue jersey. He hasn't pitched an inside pitch like that over 300 on an 82-degree day on an odd-numbered, whatever. You can literally break down the stats just like that. Moneyball only scratched the surface of what they can do.
Another movie I've seen 150 times, and it's and know the lines or whatever, and read the book first. The book is not the movie. The book is more about what Billy Beane did to bring the Oakland A's to that point, and the movie obviously showed you about his family life and the problems he had in convincing his cohorts there and his colleagues. But you are into analytics. You'd be perfect to be hired by a major league team.
Perfect. But you know what? You know what's crazy, though, about the analytics is that people don't realize, not to get too detailed, but every major league game generates 7 terabytes worth of data.
Wow.
My hard drive on my laptop is only 1 terabyte.
That's how much.
And it's not filled, right? So every game is like all this data. So it's generating. So the analysts have to be able to crunch all that stuff. And like they kind of touched upon it, Moneyball, like where he goes, when you hit on this side of the plate, your average is 300. On the outside, it drops to 100.
Right.
So if you think he's going to throw inside at you, then that's where you take your swing. Now, I am also a believer in letting the manager manage, right? So give the person the analytics, tell the person what the numbers are, but let that person run the team. Because I was watching a Giant game, and the guy goes, the analytics say you shouldn't go for 2 points here. The analytics say you just kicked the extra point. And Carl Banks chimed in and said, did the analytics say that your guy looked like crap in pregame warm-up and he missed the first 2 extra points?
Right.
That's why they went for 2. So I'm not going to tell the coach that you got to go for 1 because the analytics all say it. Because if you know the guy can't kick that day, he's having a bad day, he's partially injured or whatever, I'm not going to know that in the analytics until the game's over.
Listen,
and it's too late.
In 1988, in Game 1, Dodgers, A's, analytics said you should not send Kirk Gibson up to the plate in the bottom of the 9th. All right? He would never come up if you just played it with analytics. You can't take the human element out of the game.
No, not at all.
You can use that's why Wally Backman is such a great manager of the Ducks. Wally, who's very fiery, we know that he's got a lot of passion, but terrific that in his first season with the Ducks he wins the championship because he combined analytics with hunches and intuition and his experience. Right. He brought everything to the table, and you got to use analytics, but you can't let analytics rule you. You've got to make your own decision.
Exactly. As a pilot, my flight instructor always taught me, you fly the plane doesn't fly you.
Right.
So all that information is great. But if you see another plane coming at you and you don't have the analytics, I don't need the analytics to tell me to turn. Like, I'm not even going to look at the screen. If I see now they actually have ones that warn you well in advance. And it's great. What they have. Even small planes have that.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you know so much about. It's funny, as you're talking about that, suddenly flashing into my head is Tom Hanks as Lovell and Apollo 13, another movie each of us have seen 1,000 times, and he's telling that story about his lights going out, and he's thinking of ditching, but he sees the algae.
The algae, yeah.
So Hanks was so brilliant in Apollo 13, and I get that happened in April of 1970, and I was already so enamored with the space program as a 12-year-old turning 13 that year, and I was on the edge of my seat watching the TV coverage and remember it well. But and another movie that we could talk about for
I just watched it for the 50th anniversary because they played it. They should be playing it. It's the anniversary.
Yep. And back in the late 90s on WALK radio, I had a chance to interview Lovell. And
oh, wow.
And a couple of times in my life, I've been able to interview people who, a movie was about them, and I could ask them questions like, did this really happen? Was this dramatized? Did this happen? And I went through it. And Lovell said the movie is, yes, it does conflate a few scenes. There are a couple of things that are dramatized.
Like the re-entry, yeah.
Yes, and you know that well. And I had a chance also to interview Frank Abagnale Jr., played by Leonardo DiCaprio in Catch Me If You Can. And he, a very soft-spoken guy, but it was a fascinating interview and talking to him about how he pulled off all these cons. And I love, those are some of the best interviews I've ever had, were with people who had a movie based on them. And then I could sit there and say, look, I know the movie inside out. Let's talk now. Did this happen?
Right.
Oh, and
the thing with Apollo 13, when they show him getting out of the spacecraft, first of all, the weather was bad because they were on the edge of the typhoon. So it wasn't sunny like on Apollo 13.
Wasn't sunny.
And they show Tom Hanks get out of the spacecraft after the other two. One was on the helicopter, one was in the basket.
Right.
Going up. The commander's the first one out because he's in the middle seat.
Yes,
the only way out of the spacecraft is the middle.
Right.
So Jim Lovell got out first, and then somebody else went in the middle seat, either Fred Hayes or Jack Swigert. Then they go out, and then the other one goes out. You can't really get out from the side seats.
Yep. You see,
the hatch is over the middle.
You would notice that. That's absolutely true.
They did it for dramatic effect. Oh, he's the commander. He's the last one off the spacecraft. Okay. It doesn't matter at that point. They're already in. The floats are on the thing, and mission complete. This, ironically, the audience can't see it, but this was a space pen. When I worked for Aviation Week, I was at a space conference. Jim Lovell, unfortunately, couldn't come. Al Bean, I was talking to Al Bean and Buzz Aldrin, and the inventor of the space pen checks in. I was at the registration desk. They put me there because they know I know all the astronauts.
Right.
So I checked him in, and he said, I go, oh, my God, you invented the space pen. He goes, do you have one? And I take it out of my suit pocket. I had it right there. He goes, now he hands me a bunch of them. This was one of them. This is the bullet one. But you can see all the different colors.
Oh, I love that.
Audience can't see it, but I
love it. I love it.
And this is like $60, this pen. And he also gave me the original Apollo one, which I have right here. The AG-7. This is the one that they actually used in space. This was like an experimental one, I guess.
Yeah.
But same thing as this is the AG. So look at how
see that?
And then you retract it with a ball on the side.
It almost reminds me of your President Trump pen.
Right?
Part of your act that I know so well. There it is. You got that?
I will be the greatest president.
It talks. That wasn't me. That was the thing. So when I write the State of the Union address videos, I use this pen.
That's perfect.
And I'm like, State of the Union starts at 9, leave at 8:30.
And don't forget about the President Trump Viagra pen, which is my favorite pen. So
the Trump Viagra. So that pen is a real erectile dysfunction pen that was sitting in my desk for 10 years. My wife's cousin gave it to me as a gag, and I 10 years later thought of a way to put it into the act. So I did my act at for a group of people right near my hometown. One of them was a pharmaceutical rep. He goes, oh, my God, I used to have thousands of those. They really did give them out to the doctors.
Wow.
We don't want to say anymore because it's part of my final joke, but it's a real funny. If we ever do live comedy again, people have to come out and see that. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about this. First I just have to make a quick announcement because a lot of people thought it was fake news. But I was in a documentary called "Make Comedians Great Again," and it was comedy in the Trump era, and it was about comedians that do presidential impressions.
Yes,
and
Newsday was involved with that.
It was a Newsday documentary on Newsday.com. It's about 15 minutes, I think.
It's
they followed,
and it's an Emmy winner,
and it won an Emmy. It won an Emmy, and people thought I was kidding.
No, congratulations again. It was beautifully put together. Again, I may not be objective here, but they analyzed and featured a number of President Trump impressionists. I don't think anyone is in your league. Never has been.
Thank you.
Absolute best. Listen, I saw a guy open for Lewis Black at whatever it's called now, NYCB at Westbury. It's Westbury Music Fair, all right? That's what
I caught the Westbury Music Fair.
That's it. Okay, that's it's always going to be. So Lewis Black was there, and I'm a Lewis Black fan, and he has a guy, a good friend of his, I guess, open up, and he's got the Trump hair, he's got the Trump mannerisms, doesn't have the voice. He did not have what you have. You have always nailed it with the secondhand phrases, the repetition off to the side. It's just absolutely fantastic, and that's just one of many you do. But I guess it's the ultimate compliment, and I've always meant this. But for you, Rich Walker and Eric Haft and all my favorites, whatever, I know your routines by heart, and I could sit there and I will fall off my seat anyway, although I know what's coming.
You know what's coming.
It doesn't matter. That's how good it is.
Well, I redid the Trump bit a little bit. I added some stuff. I played with it a little bit in Florida. The show I did in Florida, we did one in Jensen Beach at a VFW hall.
Okay.
This place was so pro-Trump. They were selling Trump 2020 hats in the VFW hall. In a case.
But that doesn't matter. I don't think the pro-Trump, anti-Trump, you're going to get laughs from everybody.
Oh, but it was so much more fun doing it because there was one woman there that was from New England, and she was breaking my balls anytime I took. Because I did that one joke about Eli Manning,
right? And
she's like, "Boo!" And I'm like, "Well, first of all," and then when I do my Trump, now, so I have to wait until the end of my act to pick on her to get my revenge, right?
Right.
And it wasn't bad. She wasn't like heckling, but she was. Loud. Yeah, she was, but it wasn't awful. It was just like a little playful. So I said, "It's great to be here in Florida. I beat Hillary in Florida, and we also beat Tom Brady." I go, "What a time!" Because the Super Bowl was just in Miami,
right?
Like a month before, not even. It was like weeks before. I go, "We just had a terrific Super Bowl here in Florida, and thank God Tom Brady wasn't in it. He wasn't in it, And then I did something. I think when I did the Manning joke, I said he's the only quarterback to beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. And that she got pissed,
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I don't think the people there really like her because they kept harping on it too. So the whole thing was just a blast.
Yeah.
But so it really, I couldn't believe it. It won an Emmy.
Yeah, it was so well produced, and it was great. It was just and it's non-political. It was just about you guys and
Just about the material.
How do you imitate someone who's become almost a caricature of himself? And
Right.
it's just it was very, very well done. Congratulations again. Well,
thank you. Jung was fantastic. He was so much fun to work with, and a blast. And he filmed me at Theater 3 in Port Jeff, in the Long Island the Long Island Comedy Festival Winter Funny Fest, and then he filmed me on a Laughter Saves Live show at a yacht club, and then I think a couple of other like small shows. So he followed me around a couple of different things, so he'd have like plenty of B-roll. Right. Look at me, I'm using the industry slang now. B-roll. I didn't know what B-roll was a week ago. No. So he was great, and I sent him a little thing with that video thing, that audio thing I mentioned before with the picture, and I said, Jung is the best producer. Congratulations. He's done things with documentaries that nobody's ever done. Nobody's ever seen a documentary like this. Jung is the best documenter in the history of documentaries. Like, he loved it. He's like, oh my God, this is great. It's like he put it up on his Twitter or whatever, but it was so much fun to work on a project like that.
Yeah, I can imagine. And well deserved again, because they're following around somebody who does, among the best. And the guy who dresses up as Trump, who goes to, these major events like the U.S. Open and, at Bethpage Black, the U.S. Open, and even in 2000, I don't know when it was, just last year before, there was a pro golf tournament at Bethpage, and this guy dresses up as Trump, whatever, and from a distance, even from like 50 feet away, looks like Trump.
Right.
But he can't do the voice. So,
and I also so people ask me in my act, they're like, why don't you wear the wig in your act? So I only wear the wig as a gag when I do the videos where I'm just doing him.
Right.
But in my act, I do all these other voices. I don't really want to get involved with doing that, because all the other ones, none of them have costumes. It's just the voice.
Doesn't matter. It works better just looking at you, and you become
him.
Yeah, that you're doing. Right.
But he asked me. He said, I usually do the same non-political thing for each. If for the celebrities, it doesn't matter. But for politicians, I keep it non-political. But like, if I know I'm have an Obama crowd, I'm going to play up the Obama,
right?
A little bit to give them a little. When I was in Jensen Beach, I knew they were pro-Trump. I did a little bit more Trump, but more real Trump than my fake Trump.
Right.
I did stuff that he would really actually say. And when I'm in New York or a place like that, I play up the Obama. I play up the Clinton. If I'm in Texas, I play up Bush a little more, depends on where I am.
What I've always admired, though, because when we're sitting around just at a table and you'll just break into Trump or Schwarzenegger or whatever, you don't have to have material. You just become them and make something funny out of nothing. That's why I actually wrote up questions as if we were having a news conference, and I'm the news anchor, and I show up at a news conference, and who do you want to be? I can ask you questions. I got questions written down here.
Why don't we do Andrew Cuomo? Because unfortunately, we don't have much time. I usually am on the daily press briefing so long. By the time I'm done, it's time to start the next one. So that's what we're doing. I would be happy to answer any particular questions that you have.
Governor Cuomo, listen, very quickly, you're 12 years older than your younger brother, CNN's Chris Cuomo. Do you get along? It seems like you love each other very much, but you pick on each other an awful lot when you're being interviewed by him.
I make better sauce than he does. That's a given. You have to use the proper tomatoes. You have to have imported tomatoes.
You see, it's that cadence that nails it. The thing that I know in my interviews with Governor Cuomo is that he will very often ask a question and answer it himself. Now, why do I say that? Let me tell you. So that he does that a lot. Now, why do I say that? Let me tell you. He says,
right. Let me tell you what I mean.
Let me tell you.
So can I ask you a question about Cuomo? And so one of the videos I'm filming this week is Top Gun with Andrew Cuomo as Iceman and Donald Trump as Maverick.
Perfect.
So one of the lines is, I go, I was in a dogfight with 6 MiGs, and I requested backup. I needed the federal government to assist me, and they sent 1 fighter jet. The defense budget is $600 billion with a B dollars, and all they could send was 1. What am I going to do with 1 fighter against 6 MiGs?
Well done. That's perfect.
So I got to do that whole thing with Trump, and it's like, this is Trump supersonic. I'll be there in 30 seconds. You know, I might even film it. I have F-14s and MiGs that I could film. But I actually wanted to also have somebody else on related to sports that I know that you know and you're a big fan of, and that is he here?
Yes, this is Mike Francesa, the greatest sports person in the history of sports. But I got to admire Dave Weiss because play-by-play is extremely hard to do. It's very hard. It's very hard. And David does it great. And to sing a song at a home run is fantastic. That's unprecedented. I've never seen that. I've never heard it. I've never seen it. Never.
I love Francesa, who works right across the hall for me when we were working in the studio. 1010 Wins is right across the hall on the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street, downtown Manhattan, right across the hall from WFAN. When Francesa retired for the first time,
you always say that. I love when you say that.
He's had more retirements than Cher, for God's sake. Anyway, so he retires for the first time. And obviously, you know, they had that big year and a half build up and, you know, just all kinds of pomp and circumstance. So on that last day happened to be a Friday, and I was working afternoon drive at 1010 Wins, filling in during the week. And so he has this big send off. His cousin was there, who looks just like him. And there were other people, too. It was a small entourage. It could have been massive, but it was a small entourage. Anyway, so he comes, and this is a true story. He comes out of the WFAN studios. I happened to be in the hall at that point. He's walking out, and he's walking out for what we thought would be the final time. This is it. He's done. So he's walking toward me. He's not looking at me. He's walking toward me. He's going to make a left turn toward the elevator, and I'm walking toward him. And we make eye contact, and I just, you know, putting his ego in my pocket just for a moment, all I did was I looked at him and said, yeah, hey, how you doing? That's it. That's it. I just wanted him to know there was a person working across the hall who didn't care. Just didn't care. Hey, how you doing? And then somebody came up to me afterwards and said, do you know that was Mike Francesa? I said, yeah. He goes, today was his last day. I said, so? And that was it.
I actually remember you very well. I was walking out of my office, I remember. But I have to ask you a question because I don't even think that Mike Francesa is that good. I don't think it's that good. Do you think it's okay? Is it very good? Is it horrible? How good or bad is my Francesa?
Oh, your Francesa is very good. Very, very good.
You think it's good?
Yes. It's you know, the first thing I noticed years and years ago when he first started and, you know, teamed up with Mad Dog Chris Russo, he can't pronounce certain words. There are a lot of words he mispronounces, but the first one I ever noticed, the Mets were playing the Cardinals. And what did Francesa say? Tonight's the Mets against the Clods. CLODS. Mets against the Clods. What's the Clods? It's as if epiglottis is too big. Yeah. Mets against the Clods.
I think I need to get more nasal. But if I get too nasal, I'm going to turn into Tony Soprano. I have to work on that. Yeah, you might need to help me with this because this is.
Isn't that true though? That so many impressions are related to others. You know. That
yes.
Your soprano could easily morph right into Trump, which morphs into something else. I mean, yeah, there's a relationship there.
Could you say that again? Say that. Do the Francesa and say the cod spot.
Okay.
I want to listen.
It's tonight. The Mets against the Clods.
There's something right there that very. Like from here down,
it's as if it gets. There's obviously a lot of food going down, so it gets. Why am I making fun of him? I don't know. So the food's going down, and he's got the words coming back up, and they kind of meet, and it's clout. You know, so it gets the clout.
So what's interesting is that for the audience, they're hearing the way comedians and impressionists develop voices, and this is very important. So when my wife said, we'll get back to Apollo 13, when Apollo 13 was on, I said to my wife, look, it's April 11th. This is the launch day of Apollo 13. I'm going to watch the launch scene today. In 2 days, on April 13th, I'm going to watch the explosion scene. And then on April 17th, I'm going to watch the splashdown. So she goes, you can't watch it. And I said, on the 50th anniversary, you said that with a straight face? Really? And I was like, I went into it's the 50th anniversary of Apollo 13.
That's right. You got to do it.
Got to do it.
You got to.
She just rolls her eyes and walks away. You know.
Well, I had an opportunity. I've interviewed President Trump before becoming president 3 times, twice in person. Once in 2004 or so, when the deal was made to bring the U.S. Open golf tournament back to Bethpage, to the black course at Bethpage. So they had a big dog and pony show news conference, whatever. Bernadette Castro was the Parks and Recreation commissioner for the entire state of New York. And being a Long Islander, she was very eager to get Bethpage Black again back in the fold. And Donald Trump was there. And they, of course, closed the course down. He goes out and he plays around the golf. After he's done, he comes back, and I had an opportunity to interview him. Now, he was at the height of his popularity with The Apprentice, which I think hadn't gone to a celebrity apprentice yet, but he still had regular folks.
It was the regular apprentice.
Regular apprentice. So
and I was instrumental in bringing that golf tournament to Long Island, David. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
But I was instrumental.
Well, how is your golf game, Mr. President?
Terrific. I shoot an 18 every time I play. Okay, 18.
That's it.
I get 18 holes in one, consecutive holes in one. Nobody's ever done that before, ever in golf. Not Tiger Woods. Nobody. Okay, nobody.
See, there are rumors that the Secret Service agents are in the woods, and if you hit it there, they just throw it right back out.
They plop it right in the cup.
That's right. There you go. But so at the end of my interview with President Trump, with Donald Trump, there's Donald J. Trump. He was, a civilian at that point. But at the end of the interview, every one of us would say the same thing. Mr. Trump, if you wouldn't mind, could you fire me? Just to get him to say, "Hey, David, you're fired." So, and I've still got that cassette somewhere. So, the interview.
Whenever I launch a missile, I always tell the missile right before I hit the button, "You're fired." You're fired. Just like Schwarzenegger did in True Lies. Terrific movie. Arnold was fantastic.
Terrific.
Thank you, Mr. President. I love that movie. It is the best Arnold of all of the Arnolds.
Can I ask Arnold Schwarzenegger a quick question?
Absolutely. And then I think we have like 2 minutes in the show.
Hurry up. If you were still governor of California, how would you get people to stay indoors and not defy the shelter order?
I would tell them, get inside. Don't go to the chopper. Or you have to go to the doctor. Get the hell out of there, you son of a bitch. Because he would always say, he would use it as a greeting, you son of a bitch. And then he's like, you're under arrest, you son of a bitch.
I just remember when my brother lives in California, and he pointed out that anytime he gave a speech, he'd always end it with, and the budget and things. The budget and things. What are the
budgets?
The budgets and things. Yeah.
David, I hope that, speaking of all of this, I hope that they could amend the constitutions to allow the foreign-born people to run for the presidents, because I was president of California, and I think that I'm more qualified than anybody to be the president of the United States. I know education from kindergarten cop. I fought the Predator monster. I went to Mars, so I know the space program and all of this. I've traveled through time. I've built all of this, and I was in the police. I was in the CIA. All of that. I'm the most qualified for this. The most fantastic for the president.
There's only one thing. You've never been to Mars.
Never been there. You know what? My aunt lives in California. One time I called her up with a survey, and I go, "This is Governor Schwarzenegger. I want to know how I'm doing. Press 1 for very fantastic, 2 for somewhat fantastic, 3 for not at all fantastic." She's like, "Oh my God," because she got back-to-back calls. One really was a real survey,
right?
With Schwarzenegger, like a campaign call, not a survey, a campaign call.
Right.
So it was on her machine. So it was funny.
Listen, this is the quickest hour I have ever spent, and had so much fun. I'm telling you,
it goes by like that. It's so quickly. Well, thank you for coming on. I can't wait till we're back, like in the studio, because I want to get you in the studio.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's so much more we could do in the studio.
Oh God,
we can on the Zooms. The Zooms are great, but the studio, Bobby has the most fantastic microphones there.
You and I should do a podcast from the front seat of your SUV. That's where we have our best conversations. Just sit in your car and talk.
You were parked really far, so I was driving you back to your car, and it took 45 minutes.
We never got out of your car.
To go 2 blocks.
Just talking for an hour and a half.
It was the worst traffic in Iceland's history. It was the worst.
Listen, you're the best, John. What can I tell you?
You too. Thank you so much for coming on. David Weiss, my special guest co-host. Bobby should be coming back. He's usually right there. Where's Bobby?
I'm right here. I'm letting you do your thing. You guys are awesome,
Oh, you're right
man.
there. Oh, I can't see.
That was such a great show. Really.
I usually see Bobby. Bobby's so terrific. We love Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you,
Bobby. And we're gonna have you in the studio, David, as soon as we can go anywhere.
I'm ready and able and willing, and it'll be my pleasure.
All right, so we'll have Tony Soprano close the show.
Go.
All right. Thanks for tuning into the radio. I want to thank my special guest co-host, David Weiss. As governor of New Jersey, I just want to say this. Stay the frickin' inside. That wasn't a suggestion. It was a frickin' order.
All right, good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you for listening, folks.